Hello everyone, this is Neha Tulshan from Crescent Creation. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you can join me today. Today's video is a part of a collaboration video between Stampin Munchkins and me. We both sent each other few supplies to craft with, and this is what I have come up with those supplies. Let's start with what I created using the supplies Sin sent me. As you all can see, I created a slimline card. No surprises there. Let's quickly go over what Sin sent me and then we will start the process video for creating that beautiful card. She sent me this gorgeous black and white twine which I didn't use today, but I will be using it in the future video. She also sent me these two sheets of images stamped from Lawn Fawn and Not Too Shabby stamp sets. Lastly, she sent me these gorgeous pattern papers, which I'm sure is from the Lawn Fawn new release. And I just could not resist using these beautiful pattern papers. So instead of ink blending my background, I am using pattern papers today. And I'm gonna show you here how to use your 6x6 pattern papers for a slimline card. All you have to do is find a pattern that's repetitive and does not have a start and end to that pattern. So here, using my paper trimmer, I have trimmed my cloud pattern to 2.5 inches. I have kept that aside and now I'm working on the rest of the piece. So I'm gonna trim this piece to 2.5 inches in height too. But before that, I'm trimming the sides a little bit so that the cloud pattern matches on both the sheets. Once I'm sure that my cloud pattern will match, I'll go ahead and trim this piece to 2.5 inches in height. And ta-da! I have a beautiful cloud pattern for my slimline card. So this will be the cloud background for my scene. Now let's work on the hill part. For creating my hill, I chose this beautiful fall leaf pattern paper, but I wasn't sure how much I should trim this to create my hill, and I did not want to waste this beautiful fall leaf pattern paper. So I decided to first go ahead and glue this sky pattern paper to a white panel that measures 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And that's the size of the slimline card I'm making today. And that's it. Just like that, we used a 6x6 pattern paper to create our background for slimline card. Yes, there is a joint that can be seen on the card, but it is not as visible as it is right now once you adhere all your images. Trimming off the excess that's hanging off the panel, and I still have that little bit of sky pattern paper left if I want to use it for something else. Now for creating the hill, I went ahead and trimmed my leaf pattern paper in half, and using some scotch tape, I'll temporarily adhere these two pieces together, adjusting the pattern paper so that both the joints match. And now I'll just use a pencil to sketch the hill. Once done sketching, I'll trim the hill using my scissors. Now I have to trim another hill that goes on the back of this hill on the right side. But this is all the pattern paper I have left. So I have to make sure I use it wisely so that I don't run out of pattern papers. So here, using scotch tape, I'm temporarily adhering this pattern paper to my card panel, and then I will use my pencil to mark the back of the card panel on my pattern paper so that I can trim off the excess of the pattern paper that will be hanging off of the card panel once it's adhered to the card panel. I hope that makes sense. Once again, using my scissors to trim off the hill, now I can use the rest of the pattern paper to create the back hill on the right side. Using my pencil again to sketch the back hill and trimming it using my scissors. And there you go, perfect hills using 6x6 pattern paper on slimline card. Now that we have everything to put together our background for the card, let's add some ink to these pattern papers. You know this was coming. When I say no inking, that doesn't mean that I cannot ink my pattern papers. Yeah, I'm not gonna create the whole background using all the inks. There will be a little bit of pattern, but there will be a little bit of inking too. So here I started inking with Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink using my blending brush, but I did not like the light look of it, so I added little bit of blueprint sketch to get that nice dark bright blue, and then I used black soot to add that shadow to my background. After all, it's a Halloween card and we need to have it a little spooky by adding a little bit of black here and there. And to add depth to my hills, I'm using ground espresso and black soot distress oxide inks here. The sky pattern is already added to the card panel. Now let's adhere the hills. Keeping the front hill as a guide, I'm adhering the back hill to the right of the card panel, trimming off the excess that's hanging off the card panel. Now we'll adhere the front hill using some double-sided foam tape. And that's it. The background is ready. Now we just have to work on the images and our card will be ready. So here I have already fuzzy cut the images that Sin sent me, and now I'm gonna use my Copic markers to color all these images. So here I'm starting with my alpaca here, using some warm grays to color this beautiful creature here. You can see I'm using some round swirly motions here to color this alpaca here. It just gives you a nice fluffy wool effect when you use this motion while coloring animals like alpaca. So I started with the W6 as my shadow, W3 as my mid-tone, and W1 as the lightest color. But then W6 did not feel like the darkest color, and I wanted to add a little more darkness to few areas. So I brought in W7 as my darkest color, blended it with W6 and then W4, and followed by W3 and W1. For the face and ears, I used W3 and W1 warm gray markers, and I also used R20 for the cheeks and the inside of the ears. Since I already have my gray markers out, coloring rest of the images that I want gray using those markers. The ghost in the house is from the Lawn Fawn set. I used W1 for coloring the ghost. And now I'm using my darker warm grays, which is W9, W7 and W5 to color the roof and gates, doors of the houses. Sometimes I like to go over my colored images twice with my markers. It just gives you a better blend between the colors. Using the same gray markers to color the body of the bee. Isn't he so cute? I love that bumblebee there. Also chose to use the same markers to color the mask of my chick here. She is just cute with that mask on. Lastly, using the same marker to color the cat, W9, W7 and W5 warm gray markers. Adding shadows just under the hat, and the inside of the tails, and the leash, just under the leash that she's wearing, and then blending it with the mid-tones and the lighter shades. Also adding R20 to all the critters right now because I always forget to do that. Adding R20 to the cheeks and to the inside of the ears for all the critters. To color the ghost costume of the rabbit, using light warm gray markers here. Using W4 as my darkest color, W3 as the mid-tone and W1 as the lightest shade. Using W3 and W1 warm gray markers for the wings of the bumblebee here. And for the face of the bumblebee, using W4, W3 and W1 warm gray markers here. Now to color my pumpkins, I'm using YR18, YR04 and YR02 Copic markers here. Adding details to the pumpkin using my darkest marker, which is YR18 here. Blending it with the mid-tone, that's YR04, and then blending that with YR02, that is my lightest color. Adding a second layer to this to get a better blend. I really like this combination of YR markers to color the pumpkin here. YR04 adds that nice bright orange look to the pumpkin, and YR02 adds that beautiful shine to the pumpkin that I really wanted to have for these pumpkins. For the stem of the pumpkin, I used G07 and YG06 Copic markers. Used the same Copic markers to color the hat of the bumblebee. I just added YG01 as the lightest color for the hat. This green combination of G07, YG06 and YG01 is my favorite combination for Halloween green. You can even use this combination for coloring leaves or anything that you want to have nice bright green look. Now to color the rest of my bumblebee, I'm using Y35, Y15 and Y13 Copic markers here, and I'm using Y15 and Y13 Copic markers for the windows of the houses too. Use the same 3 yellows as the bumblebee for coloring the chick here. Now bringing in my purple markers, I'm using V09, V06 and V01 Copic markers here. At first I wanted this house to have a very dull and dark look, but then as I started coloring, all my critters are almost grays and browns. So I wanted to add some pop of color, which happened mostly for the hats of both my critters, the bumblebee and the cat. So to balance those pop of colors, I decided to color my houses here using those same colors. For the pumpkin in front of the house, since it's that tiny, I just used my darker and the mid-tone, which is YR18 and YR04 Copic markers. Now coloring my rabbit brown using E37, E35 and E33 Copic markers. I didn't want to color the rabbit grey or white today since he's already wearing a white costume, so it would be too much of grey on rabbit, so chose to use brown coloring for him. Lastly, coloring the dog using the same brown markers. And that's it, we're almost done coloring here. Just coloring the left out house using the same brown markers. Let's put together our first card. Here I have die cut a spider and a spider web using Lawn Fawn Cute Cobweb die set, and I'm gluing the spider web using some liquid glue to the top left of my card panel. Gluing down the houses to the far right hill using some ATG tape. Gluing down the ghost using some liquid glue. Rest of the images are also adhered using a combination of liquid glue and foam tape. I fast forwarded this part of the video quite a bit. I did not want to keep you here showing you gluing the images. This would have taken forever. I added white highlights to all the images using my Sakura white gel pen. Added Happy Halloween sentiment, which I'm sure is from the Not Too Shabby stamp set. And added this panel to a white card base that measures 8.5 by 3.5 inches. Now let's create the second card with the supplies I sent to Sin. Yes, it's a light up card made out of string LED lights. I sent these little agenda ghosts stamped images from Mama Elephant to Sin, including the string LED lights. And for my card today, I stamped these images on vellum using ink on 3, blackout ink from ink on 3. I stamped these images twice to get a crisp image. And since these images are stamped on vellum, I heat set it before coloring the images. I'm using Copic markers to color my images here, and I'm coloring these images at the back since I'm coloring on vellum, and the colors are gonna look lighter than what they appear right now since we're coloring at the back of the vellum. For all my ghosts, I used C7, C5 and C2 cool grey markers. I'm not gonna show the coloring of all the ghosts here as they're all colored similarly. Aren't these ghosts cute? Little Agenda Stamps series have some of my favorite stamps from Mama Elephant. Here I've chosen some bright colors to color all my accent pieces for the ghosts. And since these images are so tiny, I did not use more than 2 shades for each color. Once done coloring, I'll fuzzy cut these images and work on the card panel. I die cut 2 white panel using the scallop die from the Slim Card Basics die set from Mama Elephant. Now I will use one of those white panels to die cut 2 cloud borders using the cloud die from the same die set. You really do get a lot of dies from this Slimline die set from Mama Elephant. Die cutting the second cloud border from the same panel. Next, I die cut this jar frame from white panel using jar shaker die from Mama Elephant. Now adding liquid glue on its back, and I'll adhere a piece of vellum at the back of this die cut, and that will create my shaker window. Not really the shaker window, but that will create my window in which my string light will sit in. But before that, let's create our background. For my background here, I'm using picked raspberry, seedless preserve, fired brick, and crackling campfire distress oxide inks. To create my background, I'm using the second white scalloped panel that I die cut earlier. Also adding some color to the cloud borders here using whatever is left on the mat and the blending brushes here. Using my distress sprayer, sprinkling some water onto the background and blotting it dry using paper towel. Adding some color splatters using seedless preserve and black soot distress oxide ink to the background. Also adding some lawn fawn stardust glitter to the background. Now using double-sided tape, I'm gonna adhere both my cloud borders together. Now for my jar, I'll use some doubled up foam tape that I will cut in thirds and apply that around the frame to create my well for the lights to sit in. If you remove the backing from the foam tape, it's easier to manipulate it. You can see I have left a little bit of space between the foam tape. That's where my light switch is gonna come out from. Unlike regular shaker cards, here you do not have to worry about the closed well. Even if the well is a little open, in this case the foam tapes are not close together, your light card is gonna work perfectly. Now working on the placement of the switch, I want it to be hidden when I glue it down, but still accessible so that I can switch on the light. Now adding foam tape around my light up mechanism to glue down my cloud border. I'm using tripled up foam tape here. Just checking if everything is working. Yes, it is. So now let's decorate our jar. I'm using some Copic markers to add color to the jar. I'm using B000, B01 to add nice light blue color to the jar frame. Now I'm die cutting the lid for my jar using silver brushed cardstock from MFT. I'm using my Sizzix sidekick here to die cut the jar lid. If you want, you can skip this step, but this adds a nice accent to the card, and it also helps me hide that light switch that is peeking from below my cloud border. Using some foam tape and liquid glue, I'll glue the lid in place. Now to add some depth to the lid, I'm using C5 and C7 Copic markers. Everything is almost done. Now let's work on the sentiment and then we will assemble the card. I have prepped my cardstock using anti-static powder tool as I'm gonna heat set my sentiment, GHOULS Night Out. This sentiment is from one of the lawn fawn stamp set, which is linked in the description box below. I've stamped this sentiment using clear ink, and now I have poured some white embossing powder, which I'm gonna heat set using my heat gun. Once done embossing, I'll trim this out using my paper trimmer. Creating a fishtail at one end using my scissors and gluing it down to my card front using some double-sided tape. Gluing my card front to a black card base that measures 8.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Now all is left is to add the ghost to the card front. I have created stickers of the ghost using my Xyron sticker maker. This makes gluing these ghosts to the card front easy peasy. To finish off, added Boo sentiment all around the card using VersaFine Onyx black ink. And that's it. Those were my cards for today. I hope you guys liked my collaboration with Stampin Munchkins, and I cannot wait to see what she has created with the supplies she sent me and I sent her. If you haven't yet, please do consider subscribing. Your support means the world to me. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.